Sports, 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 sports.
Hey there, sports fans. Welcome to Sportsball, part of the ESPN Crew Podcasting Network. We talk about sports-related topics, but we focus on you, the fan, and what you like, whether it's a sport, a team, athlete, sports-related news, or sports-related events. This week, we're going to be talking about the NFL and the NBA. We'll be doing something for hockey very soon. I promise you that. But we are about almost 20 games into the NBA season. So most teams are starting to get to their 17th, 18th, 19th game. And then we're already on week 13 of the NFL. So almost 3/4 of the way, or a little over 3/4 of the way through the NFL season, about a fourth of the way done with the NBA seasons. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to talk about, some not winners and losers, but like surprises and disappointments for the NFL season so far and the NBA season so far. And I'm going to start with the NFL. And I think for me, the biggest surprise so far of the NFL season has been the resurgence of Jonathan Taylor. And I think one of the things that I look at when it comes to Jonathan Taylor is he's been so injury riddled for a long time, and he's been having like okay seasons, but nobody's anticipated that he has actually been this good of a running back this year for the Indianapolis Colts. The fact that Daniel Jones is making that team somewhat productive, even though over the last couple of weeks he's been not great. And I think he's come down to earth a little bit. I think people are starting to figure him out a little bit more. But I do believe that it has been a little crazy that Jonathan Taylor has been as good as he's been. One thing that has been a little bit on the disappointing side has been for me the Washington Commanders. Granted, yes, they have been injured. Like Gene McDaniels has been out. Their wide receiver core hasn't been that good, and they don't have a run game, and their defense has very much regressed. But I expected them to at least be contending for a wild card spot, and they're nowhere near that right now. And Jaden Daniels, and in fact, a lot of the rookies in last year's quarterback class, they've regressed. So you look at Jaden McDaniels, you look at Bo Nix, he hasn't had that great of a season. He's being very much carried by the Denver Broncos defense. A lot of them just haven't been performing that well. But then you also have other quarterbacks from that class, like like was it, Caleb Williams and Drake May. Both of them are doing like very, very well right now. So that's good. Surprise, I didn't think the Patriots were going to be this good this early, and that kind of just goes to show that Mike Vrabel's influence on this team has been really strong, which is good. Their defense is out of control, and then Drake May is playing some amazing football, even though he doesn't really have a whole lot of weapons around him. So I'm very surprised and very happy that the New England Patriots have been as good as they have been this year. On the flip side of that, I am a little perplexed at how bad the NFC South has been, particularly the Atlanta Falcons. And granted, Michael Penix, he's been injured. I think Raheem Morris is probably not going to be long for this team, but they should not be 4-7 and hopefully contending for like maybe the final wild card spot. But the struggle that I'm having with the Atlanta Falcons right now is that you've got Bijan Robinson, you've got Drake London, you've got a lot of great skill players on the offensive side. I don't know what's going on with them. Other surprises, I am a little bit surprised. Fine, I guess I'll say it. This is kind of a surprise and a little bit of a disappointment. The Chicago Bears. Look, I'll admit it. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. However, I have been concerned with their defense not being able to stop anything this year. So I guess I'm surprised that the Bears are 8-3, top of the NFC North for now. Just because they're on top of the NFC North now does not mean shit right now. But the fact that they're there, the fact that they keep winning these close games, that bubble is eventually going to burst. And at some point, the defense has got to step up more than they're stepping up. The offense has been able to generally put up points and at least get into these throwing matches where they're able to do really good things. But particularly for the Chicago Bears, I've been really impressed with Caleb Williams. I think Ben Johnson is just proving that he was the right person for this job. And I think Kyle Monangai has been a revelation at running back. It's going to be his backfield soon enough. DJ Moore and Roma Dunze, they've had up and down years. And Cole Kmet has kind of had a quiet year. Colston Loveland, same thing, a little bit of a rough year. Offensive line is at least getting better, but it's still not great. But the defense needs to step up more. So there you go. That's one for both of those. But I am surprised that the Minnesota Vikings aren't as good as they should be because they've got a lot of great weapons on offense. Their defense is still pretty great, but just their offense can't do much of anything. And the big problem with this is that JJ McCarthy does not look like he's ready for prime time. He looks like he needs to sit his ass on the bench and learn some stuff before he continues to progress. And then I guess my last ones, I am surprised. Yeah, okay, fine. I'll buy it. I'm surprised that the Carolina Panthers are 500 right now. Bryce Young is still wildly inconsistent. I think Rico Dowell has been a serviceable running back this year, so I'm hoping that they continue to progress. And I don't think they've got a shot to win the division, but they may have an outside puncher's chance of making a wild card spot. The problem with the Panthers is that they've got a couple teams in the NFC North to contend with, and they've got a couple teams in the NFC West to contend with as well. So one of those, there's there's six teams possible in the NFC North and the NFC West between the Bears, Packers, Lions, Rams, Seahawks, 49ers. It's going to be tricky to see which one of those kind of pans out because at least one from each of those divisions is getting in, and then from there, if the three wild card spots are going to be duped out between the four teams that are not the division winners in the NFC North and the NFC West. I could probably see that kind of continuing to be a thing. And I guess my last disappointment for the NFL season this year is how mortal the old guard looks. And by old guard, I mean the Bills, the Ravens, and the Chiefs. They all just something just doesn't seem right with all of them. And granted, I could see it with the Chiefs in particular that the Chiefs have got to be at minimum tired. They've just got to be tired. They played a lot of football and they've gone deep into the playoffs for quite a while. But I think Kansas City's window is just slowly but surely just continuing to shut. And Josh Allen needs to get himself out of Buffalo because he's never going to be able to do it. He needs to go somewhere where they're going to give him a shitload of weapons and he's going to be able to just continue to do good things. He's never going to leave Buffalo, but yeah, it's just not going to happen. And then the Ravens, they've just been too injury ridden, and they should be eternally grateful that the AFC North this year is just straight trash because the Steelers have been fine and the Cincinnati Bengals have underperformed, and then the Cleveland Browns are just present. So I don't know. It's just interesting that the old guard in the particularly on the AFC side, because in the NFC side, the Eagles are still really good, and Matthew Stafford looks phenomenal right now. So hopefully that continues. I could see the Rams getting to the Super Bowl, and if he wins another Super Bowl with the Rams, I could see him just hanging him up and just calling it a day. So That is all for the NFL. Let's talk about the NBA for a second and some surprises and some disappointments so far. So very surprised in the Eastern Conference that currently your league, your top three teams in the Eastern Conference, recording this last night, are the Detroit Pistons, the Toronto Raptors, and the Miami Heat. Now, granted, most of those teams don't have a strong winning percentage. Well, they have an okay winning percentage, both of them, but the Pistons are 15-2, the Raptors are 13-5. A lot of the teams that everybody expected to contend, like the Knicks, the Cavaliers, the Magic, are all wildly underperforming right now. So that's a bit of a surprise. Disappointment, if I'm going with all the teams that I kind of listed as disappointments, I probably would say the biggest disappointment is probably the Magic out of all of those, because their big acquisition was Desmond Bain, and it's taken him a little longer to adjust than we potentially gave him credit for. But they're starting to make things happen. But injuries are starting to creep up with the Magic like they do every year. And that's probably one of my biggest surprises is the amount of soft tissue injuries right now that's going on with particularly the stars so far of the NBA this season. I'm curious to see how that's going to come about, especially once we get later into the season when if some of these people who are having calf injuries, if those calf injuries turn into Achilles injuries, then we're going to be in for a rude awakening next season in particular. Going to the West, I think the big thing in the West is that I think the biggest surprise so far has been that the Suns have actually been pretty good so far this season. They're at least a feel good story and they're not, you know, horrendous to watch. So I will give them a little bit of credit for that. On the flip side, the Clippers look old. They look old and they look slow, and they half of them don't feel like they just can't compete. And I love Chris Paul. It's cool that he made that retirement announcement, but it's also overdue. Sorry, Chris Paul. I'm very sorry about that. But most of the teams that are at the top, it's not surprising. So the Thunder, who only have one loss so far this season, the Nuggets up there, Lakers and Rockets are up there. I suppose the big surprise out of the top six so far in the Western Conference has been the Spurs. The Spurs look surprisingly good. Wembanyama looks like he's definitely as advertised, but he's on the shelf for a little while as well. So we'll see how that goes. One disappointment that I've had in particular is these scandals are still hanging over the NBA, and they're still going to continue to hang over them unless something is done about them once all this stuff gets resolved. So, gambling problem, the soft tissue injuries problem, and then the last part is this whole thing with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's injured right now, and I'm sure he is uber grateful that all of these gambling arrests have been made at the expense of poor Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier and all that shit. But that still doesn't change the fact that the Kawhi Leonard situation is still very much hanging out there, and we'll see how that pans out. This year's rookie class has been as advertised. They've been really good, and I think between Cooper Flag, VJ Edgecombe, and Con Knipple, and both guys actually on the Pelicans have been pretty good. So Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen, but I feel like this year's rookie class has been really, really great. On the flip side, though, you've got a lot of players that have been superstars at one point or another that feels very disgruntled and feels like their team is moving on beyond them at this point. So the ones that I'm looking at more than anything, I'm looking at LaMelo Ball, who reports just came out recently that LaMelo Ball is frustrated with how things are going in Charlotte, which I can't blame him for that, but also that he would be open to a trade. But the problem there is who on earth would give up a king's ransom for somebody like LaMelo Ball right now? Because LaMelo Ball has had a history of a lot of injuries where he's missed a lot of time. He hasn't progressed as much as a playmaker. His shooting is very streaky. His defense is not very good either. And then he just has questionable. There's a lot of questions about his decision making off the or on the court, in particular. John Morant, same thing. Not a whole lot of people lining up for a John Morant trade, which is too bad because there once upon a time John Morant was viewed as somebody who could be that next it guy for the NBA. So we have that going for us. Surprises, I guess my last one is that I've been pleasantly surprised by how well the Lakers have been doing. Sans LeBron James, I guess. At some point, it's either he's going to announce it at the end of this year or he's going to do his giant victory lap like Derek Jeter did his final season. But LeBron James has got to be done because he looks like he's just overmatched right now. He looks a tad bit slow. He just doesn't feel as explosive. He also doesn't feel as engaged as he has been in the past. But thankfully, the Lakers still have Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves still performing at a high level. But it would not surprise me if LeBron James was not on the team next year as well. And then I guess finally my last one is the bottom of each league of each division looks bad, like really bad, between the Nets, Pacers, Wizards in the East, and then in the West you've got the Pelicans, Kings, and Mavericks. They both look, or all three of those, both those trios of teams look awful right now. So we'll see how it goes. Oh, and then I guess last pro, I've been very happy with the Amazon and the Peacock games. I think both of them have been really good, and I think varying it up a little bit has been really good. New teams, new groups, yeah. So good stuff there. But what did you think, or what have been some of your disappointments and surprises so far for the NBA and NFL seasons? Let me know in the comments below. But that's going to do it for this episode of Sportsball. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe to anything and everything SPDM Crew, or wherever you get your podcast. Join us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky at SPDM Crew. Check out our website at SP. Shout out to HiFlyer Creative Studios for making our awesome logo. Greatly appreciate their support. And if you've got any marketing logo or brand standard needs, contact them at HiFlyerCreative.com. Check out the other shows on our network. We've got a lot of great content. Really proud of the work that everyone's doing. So please check out the other shows on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. And finally, if you've got a podcast idea or you're interested in being part of the SPDM Crew as a guest or collaborating, email us at spdmcrew@gmail.com. Until next time.